Joining us now are Tom Bellhouse, Executive Vice President of West Point Thoroughbreds, and Griffin Johnson, part owner of Sandman, who ran in the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. Guys, thanks so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having us. Opening day at the spa for Belmont Stakes. We got to get our verbiage right.
I know.
We'll have 3 of these, Tommy. Pace yourself.
I'm chomping at the bit, Chris.
I can tell. Back for July 4th, and then obviously the traditional start of the meet. Tom, West Point Thoroughbreds is a name, it's a brand that so many people in this area know so well, based on success, of course, but also because you are based here.
Yeah, I mean, Saratoga's been our base of operations probably for the last 15 years. Saratoga plays a huge part in our company. Even though we started East Coast based, Saratoga every year, when we were a much smaller company, this was a chance to show our wares and put our name on display. And it's, we haven't forgot our roots. I mean, Lindsay Human, our CFO, myself, we all live here in Saratoga year round. And the company obviously has grown where we race in Kentucky, all over the East Coast, California, but Saratoga's home, and we're thrilled to be here.
And now you got a guy with one of the biggest social media followings on the planet here.
Turns out when he says, somebody says to you, I know a guy, it turns out he knows everybody.
Griffin Johnson, who of course is so big on TikTok and Instagram, Griffin, but I heard in your interview with NBC ahead of the Kentucky Derby, you're like, they call me a social media influencer, I guess I'll embrace that, which you are, but now part owner of Sandman. What made you want to get involved with this sport?
Well, I say this, I wasn't really looking necessarily to get into a racehorse, but they showed me Sandman. I had a friend of a friend, and they're like, hey, we have this beautiful horse. We'd love for you to market the sport. And once I saw him, I was like, okay, I'm in. He kind of has the look. He's obviously very beautiful. And luckily, he backed it up with some talent, which really set it off.
What I love is that obviously you're young, and you're kind of getting like the younger generation into horse racing, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I think with the horse racing world, right? It's been historically, it's one of the oldest sports in the entire world. It's the king sport, and I think that Gen Z hasn't really got a good taste of it, right? So this is the first time, Sandman makes it easy for me. But yeah, I want to see grandparents taking their grandkids to the track. I want to see parents taking their parents, and maybe even vice versa. So
just like when we were young, we remember going, right?
Exactly, yes.
Because of your following, people are going to pay attention anyway, Griffin. But what kind of techniques or strategies are you using to really engage Gen Z, like you said, in terms of taking notice of the sport? They always say bet the gray, which is smart on Sandman, but really, what are you doing that's maybe different that is drawing in that interest?
Yeah, I think as much content as there is in the world, everyone can post for free, right? It really comes down to authenticity, and I think that's what separates someone from being a creator and being an actual influencer. Working with people like West Point, working with people like Mark Casse, and all just across the board, from the grooms all the way to to everyone that's financed and put in the money for Sandman. Everyone's been a joy, and kind of just showing that off. It takes the whole village. So that's really the bread and butter, is giving everyone a real experience.
Tom, no Sandman on Saturday, but pointed towards maybe the Jim Dandy, and then of course we would all assume the Travers, because Dandy is that traditional prep race. How's he and how's he feeling?
Well, he's come out of the race in remarkably good shape, considering the campaign he's had. To have 5 races like that, and to start as a 2-year-old in June and then break his maiden here in Saratoga. He never really got a break. We backed off a little, and Mark had an incredible program and took us on an amazing ride. But it was, running in the Preakness was a huge step, and he didn't let us down. He gave us an incredible effort. Perfect to give him that little blow. If we're going to really be running in races like the Travers, Jim Dandy Travers, maybe Breeders' Cup, you gotta somewhere let your foot off the gas a little. And Mark has just been masterful at that. And Griffin talks about some of the impact. You look at West Point. We've always prided ourselves on transparency, and he brings a level of transparency to the whole world with horse racing and with ownership. And it's an opportunity. I've been in the game now full time for almost 20 years, and all the time we're saying, well, how do we get the new level of fans? Like, I went with my uncle and my neighbor, and how do you get that? and he's provided that in a way that far exceeded anyone's expectations.
What do you think of Saratoga?
Oh, I love it here. So I went to Travers last year. Obviously got a beautiful weather day. It was amazing. I don't know if we're going to get that this year. Well, we can go back to the meteorologist, but it's just a beautiful spot. It really is. The energy here, the picnic outside with the racing in, I mean, it kind of gives everyone a mix of whatever you want based on what your appetite is. So this is just a special spot. It really is.
You want to throw it to break? Weather's next.
All right, we're gonna see what the weather's gonna pan out to be for this Belmont at Saratoga. We're gonna look up here. Sorry, guys. We're gonna take it over to you.